this was this was back when I was having my first awakening. Um, I was, and this story I've never shared with anybody. So, and I said, well, who else is with me? And she said, there's another one. So Babaji was on my right side. She said there were a couple other ones. She couldn't really make out some of the other ones, but she could make out one other one. And she said that the other one was Paramahansa Yogananda. And I said, and I specifically was referring to, I was talking to Babaji, and I said, well, why didn't you ever come to me? I mean, yeah, I was told you were here, but why didn't you ever come to me? I really could have used you at times, especially during those hard times. And Babaji said, I did come to you. And I said, well, yeah, but you didn't really present yourself. I mean, I was told you were here. He goes, no, I was there. And I go, yeah, what do you mean? He goes, I was the young woman who was there teaching you how to remember. I was like, whoa. When I say Caleb is speaking, Caleb is a collective, and one of the energies that speaks through Caleb is Mahavatar Babaji. I'm saying that we are really powerful divine beings. I mean, the ability for us to create worlds is at our disposal. That's how powerful we are. We can create not just worlds, but dimensions, other aspects of dimension. We can create universes. We're that powerful. We just don't remember
That the
what to
people
do.
who are working right now as light workers, they themselves are like portals anchoring the
Yes.
light and transmuting darkness. And so, do they act like glitches in the matrix where
That is because if you understand how your body works, and most people wouldn't at this point, but if you understand the sacred geometrical portal that you have in your body, it is the way in which we astral travel, but you can travel with your consciousness to realms in this dimension and to the farthest. A Stargate is a portal that allows you to go way all the way to oneness if you know how to use that Stargate. And we have that ability. We are able to use the portal within our bodies to do that. Powerful one. And just because you can't go to the fifth without entering the fourth. People make that mistake in believing that it's just because the fifth dimensional energies are here that that they just automatically receive it and all is good. So they have to go to the fourth, and the fourth is all about awareness, the remembrance of yourself as who you really are, okay, outside of the illusion of these games. The fifth dimension is more of an actual plane.
Hi, this is Akanksshaa. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. If you resonate with me, please like, comment, and share. Welcome to Multidimensional Soul podcast and a talk show. On this show, we talk about deep spiritual and mystical experiences of people which we normally shy away talking about. We are more than our physical body. We are spiritual beings on a human journey, and we discuss how a soul exists on multiple dimensions. We discuss science, technology, and spirituality point of views and perspectives on this show. Our purpose is to open our minds to limitless possibilities and our hearts to love and shine the light within bright. Welcome to this absolutely fascinating conversation with Franco Romero, who is a near death experiencer and a soul walk-in. Although this is a standalone episode, it will benefit if you watch the episode which we released earlier. We discussed about Franco's near-death experience, his pre-birth memory as a soul walk-in. We discussed about the crazy changes that are coming in 2025 onwards till 2039. We discussed about the DNA changes that are going to happen in our body and how we are going to have superhuman abilities. And now I'm excited for this this episode. I just loved talking to Franco, and I hope you will love it too. We have with us today a very special guest, Franco Romero. who has had near-death experience, soul walking, he's a channel, and he has actually experienced multiple dimensions and multiple realms. And he's one of the light workers working here tirelessly. So, a very warm welcome, Franco, to Multidimensional Soul Podcast and Talk Show. It's an honor to have you here.
It is an honor to be here, Akanksshaa. It's not too often that I get to meet somebody or to talk to somebody in your neck of the woods, and so I'm looking forward to having a fun time talking about whatever we desire to talk about. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready to do this.
Yeah, let's go. When you talked about this universe being a holographic universe and this entire thing being a game, and yes, in Indian scriptures also we call it as Leela, as in it's a
Oh yes, the
game.
game of Leela. The game of Leela. I've heard about that.
Yeah,
The illusion, the game.
the illusion
Yes.
is Maya.
Yes. You see?
Yeah, and
Yeah. Did you say
the
Maya as well?
yeah, Maya is
What?
illusion, and Leela is the game that.
See, there you go. There you go. I mean, I don't tell people very much about this because it again, it's not relevant in the way that it's just not. It's just it, it is what it is. My when I was going through an initiation process of remembering um, that started basically it's been happening since I was little. But in the time that I was really aware that I was doing this because it was an adjustment in my life that had to happen in order for me to even literally survive. Okay, um, my I was given the opportunity to be taught in a metaphysical way. Well, not really. It was actually physical, by the presence or the essence of Mahavatar Babaji. And so, so that essence or being is been one of my primary uh, guides through this. And so in that process, I remember some of these terms that you're using, and why a lot of what I talk about in one way, shape, or form kind of has some correlation to certain teachings in the Hindu tradition. But I was just doing an interview yesterday with a Taoist master, and he claims he claims that I'm a Taoist master. I said, I don't know. I just talk like I'm just telling you what I know, you know. Um, and I mean that very sincerely. The truth is the truth, no matter whatever lens you're talking about it from. I'm not surprised that some of the things I'm saying have strong correlations to some of the teachings or whatnot of this particular faith because of who one of my closest friends is and teachers or guides is. And so yeah, I didn't even know much about Babaji until I was told about who he was. So but it was really a significant time in my life when I was being guided through that experience with him. When I say Caleb is speaking, Caleb is a collective, and one of the energies that speaks through Caleb is Mahavatar Babaji. So
Oh, okay. I have been guided by Mahavatar Babaji. I visited his caves. There are
what
Babaji
a
caves.
surprise! What a surprise! Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about that experience where you were guided by him specifically?
Oh my gosh. um, so this was this was back when I was having my first awakening. Um, I was, and this story I've never shared with anybody. So hey, we're going to talk about this one because most people don't know much about him in this part of the world, and so there's really never a sense of reason to bring it up, but
They know more about Yogananji from Autobiography for Yogi, and you can see the picture on my wallpaper. And Mahavatar Babaji is Yogananji's
yes,
guru. So he's from that lineage. Yeah, please continue.
yeah. Oh no. I appreciate you saying that. So when I was going through my first real solid remembrance was back in 2010, late 2009, 10, and it went through a couple of years of real serious, intense remembering of downloads and things that I was being shown, and as I said before that, I was having all sorts of different supernatural experiences. I had lived in a home that would be considered filled with a lot of spirits. Let's just put it that way: spirits they didn't want to go or couldn't go home at the time. So I've had a very active supernatural life. I live in Minnesota, and I was which is a state here in the U.S. And for those who don't know, I just wanted to bring that up. And I was not from here originally. I'm from Chicago, and so I came here and I moved to a specific area of the city, and there was this home, and I had been staring at this home for years. I was being told by the collective, by Caleb, that, and at the time I didn't have a name associated with this voice. It was a little bit later that they gave me the sort of the permission to use Caleb as the name that they wanted to go by. And so anyway, I saw this home. I was very drawn to this home. I was being told I had to go to this home and meet the person inside this home. And I was very shocked at this. Like, I'm not going to go in that. I'm not going to go knock on somebody's home. And at least here in the States, you don't necessarily do that and go, hey, I'm supposed to meet you. Let's talk. And, most people would probably, at least here in the States, they would be polite, most of them, and they would close the door. And that would be the end of it. Okay. So for years, there was a restaurant in this neighborhood that I lived in. And it from where you could sit in the restaurant, you could see this home across the way. And it just stared at me. I couldn't stop. I couldn't avoid it. And so one day, I decided to take a leap of faith. I was going through a sizable remembering that was leaving me extraordinarily confused. And I had already some pretty confusing times, but this was really big. So I went there and I knocked on the door, and this lady, an older woman, came out. She was probably, I don't know, maybe in her mid to late 60s, maybe a little bit older than that. And I said, I know this is going to sound very strange, but I'm supposed to meet somebody here, and I'm supposed to talk to them. And I don't know what I'm supposed to talk to them about, but I'm supposed to talk to them. And surprisingly, the woman looked at me and she said, "We've been expecting you." And I said, "Well, really? I didn't know that. Was I really obvious when I was walking by your house all this time?" And so she invited me in, and it turned out that they were psychics. The home was filled with psychics, and very powerful psychics. I don't know to this day where they came from, but if I had to say, they were probably in sort of the area of I refer to it because of an experience of a past life, like where a Persian area, like Iraq, Iran, somewhere in that area, somewhere Pakistan, somewhere in that area, maybe as far east as India, but they had that feeling to them. Okay. And so they told me to go sit down in a room. So again, this is a story that I don't even talk about in my book. And so I sat down, and this woman sat down with me, and she told me who she is in terms of what she does, and I was like, oh well, now that makes sense why I was told to come here. And so she tried to read me, and she couldn't read me. She said my energy was too strong. So she said there's somebody here that normally would not see people, but I believe that she's the only one that can read you, or that can help you, or for why you're here. So I thought she was going to come back. So I thought the person who was going to come back was probably going to be another woman who was probably her age, and wearing all sorts of wonderful colors and whatever. I thought it was going to be like a big show here or something, and so it turned out that it was a young woman. It was a very young woman, probably in her maybe early 20s, late teens, early 20s. And I was really surprised. I was like, I didn't expect this to be a young woman. Um, and she had beautiful dark hair, but there was streaks of brown in them, a lot of streaks of brown in them. And so, and she was very petite. Um, she had a very androgynous look to her. So I mean, she was obviously a woman, but I felt there was a real strong presence of male energy there, of a masculine energy there. Um, and anyway, she proceeds to talk to me in a way that, as if we had known each other before, and we spent that first time. We spent probably about 4 or 5 hours, where she went and told me so many things about my life, not just in this world, but in my life in previous worlds, and that I didn't have very many lives, and I knew that already, and so right away in that first time that we were together, she told me why I was here, and what I had done in certain other in the few past lives that I had. They were pretty significant ones, but they're not the ones that most people know about. And she said that there were certain things that I did back then that I needed to correct here, because of what I did back then, things didn't quite turn out exactly the way they were supposed to in this world for the sake of humanity. And so all this, I'm just kind of going, cool. Yeah. I wasn't like, oh, this is I wasn't. It was just like, if you know my nature, which you can see from my nature, I'm a pretty easygoing person. Okay. I'm kind of like a kid. All right. So in any event, she told me when right at the end of that first visit, and I had 3 visits with her, and they were all that long, and they were all very even longer, and they were deep and rich, and there were so many things. Much of what I teach today um, is based off of what I went through in the process of remembering who I was, the initiation process of who I was, and a lot of that came out, not all of it, but a lot of it came out in that time that I was with this young woman. And in any event, I was told at that time that I had a series of guides around me. There were several guides around me, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Who are they? And she said that I probably wouldn't know, because she didn't even know herself who they were. Okay. And she said, well, there's a young woman that's next to you. And I said, who is that? And she said, she was like going, Babaji, some Babaji. And I said, Babaji, who is that? I don't know who that is. And she said, no, you do know who it is. You just don't remember just yet. And I said, well, who else is with me? And she said, there's another one. So Babaji was on my right side. She said there were a couple other ones. She couldn't really make out some of the other ones, but she could make out one other one. And she said that the other one was Paramahansa Yogananda. And I said, I don't know who Paramahansa Yogananda is. So I eventually found out who they were. Okay. And I was like, oh, this is pretty big. So, um, so then years later, um, I remember hearing a story about not just remembering, but I remember the story about how, because I started reading the book of the autobiography of a yogi, and and um, and I read where Yogananda had been asking for Babaji to appear, and I know that he has appeared to other people in similar fashion, and I remember talking to the collective, and I said, and I specifically was referring to, I was talking to Babaji, and I said, um, well, why didn't you ever come to me? I mean, yeah, I was told you were here, but why didn't you ever come to me? I really could have used you at times, especially during those hard times. And Babaji said, I did come to you. And I said, well, yeah, but you didn't really present yourself. I mean, I was told you were here. He goes, no, I was there. And I go, yeah, what do you mean? He goes, I was the young woman who was there teaching you how to remember. I was like, whoa, dang. Okay, sorry. So I have a strong affinity with Babaji. We're it's different because I feel like he's like he and the others are just family to me. They're just family to me. But up until that time, I didn't know who any of these people were. So and I've come to find out there are other guides around me as well. Some of them are quite notable spiritual masters, and so I feel pretty. I feel like I'm in a good space. I have a good group of guides that are following me right now. So
Yeah, Babaji is immortal, and he's physically he's 2,500 years old plus, but he
yeah,
looks
you
like a
wouldn't tell by the way he
20-year-old.
looked. And he
Yeah,
looked pretty good. He looked pretty good
he
at
looks
it.
20-year, yeah,
Yeah.
and he knows how to shapeshift. So
Yes.
he appears as somebody else at times.
Well, if you looked at this person later on, I came to realize this. I don't know why I didn't really pay much attention to it. This person looks very, very, very similar to what Babaji looks like in images and pictures that been. I just didn't really put two and two together right away. I didn't really know the importance of it right away. But this person that was with me, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
You talk quite a bit about your initiation and restoring your memories and remembering other lifetimes and as your higher self. So, how can one go about doing that?
yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people believe that because of my near death experience and maybe some of the experiences I had in my life and fact that I can channel energy like this, they feel like these are extraordinarily unique situations, but they're not. They're not. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, not everybody has a near death experience. I get that. Okay. But I also really, the message that I teach is that we all are divine beings. Um, I'm not saying that to go, oh, we're all divine beings, yay, like, to make us feel good. I'm saying that we are really, really powerful divine beings. I mean, the ability for us to create worlds is at our disposal. That's how powerful we are. We can create not just worlds, but dimensions, other aspects of dimension. We can create universes. We're that powerful. We just don't remember what to do, and we're not. And because we come down here and we forget these things, we don't only just get thrown down here to forget, but we also are put in a realm where the frequencies are not very very strong, so we're not able to kind of tap into those frequencies and make magic happen easily, if you will. But as energy keeps rising, we're going to enter into frequencies that will allow us to do this, and it will allow us to break the veil between this world and other worlds. And we were talking a little bit about this before we came on, that in the process of us breaking these veils, we will be reuniting ourselves with aspects of other people that have moved on. We are also going to be reuniting ourselves with worlds. We didn't really get a chance to talk about this much, but we're going to reunite ourselves with those same people, but who are now playing in their own game. Because I was saying that, when people pass on, they don't all just go to nirvana, heaven, or whatever you want to call it. They mostly stay here. And you go, well, where? And you go, well, they're playing in their game. And so, this gets into parallel realities and the flower of life and the Vesica and how that's a portal. But I just, it's just to let you know that most of that essence that came here is still here on this planet, but it's just playing in a different game, and that those games will come together when we continue to rise into the fourth and fifth dimension. So those reunions will be there again. Interestingly enough, some of that will not look the same as you might expect, because they're playing in their game, but they may not be in their game the same person that was playing in your game. But you will know them, just like I knew them. I knew my family when I crossed over, even though there was no face to them. I just knew who they were. Okay, so you asked the question in terms of what you do in order to start getting there, and it's really, really incredibly simple. But then again, it isn't, because I've been teaching these courses for so long, and that the idea is that you have to. So there is a consciousness of awareness, a philosophy or some ideology or something. I'll call it whatever any of those things. And the Taoists, they're not the only ones. I mean, this is like Christianity and others talk about. It's a frequency of consciousness known as the way. Okay, and it comes in different names. Like in Taoism, it's Tao. I think it's the Tao. I'm not even sure, but it's something to do with the way. So the way has been taught different ways. Different ways. And so what I teach is how to do it simple, because that's the way that it was shown to me as a child. It was shown to me by Babaji in the same way, to keep it stupidly simple. But it's also taught that way in other teachings, like in Christianity. There is an expression that goes something along the lines of, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, and I know I mentioned this in other interviews, but it's important to keep saying this, to enter into the higher levels of consciousness, which is what heaven is, you must receive it as a child. You must play with it as a child. You must enter it as a child. And that's not meant to be, oh, that's so cute. Yeah, that's so, so wonderful. It's meant to tell you that you cannot make this complicated. So what I tell people is that they have to, the easiest way, and this is again what the biblical passage is. It's not just, it's really almost the way. I mean, it's like the way. All right, to do this is to keep things simple, and to treat your life, and see your life, and play with your life, and interact with your life in the very same frequencies that a child would. And if you can do that, and that's why I told you just a few minutes ago that I'm kind of like a big kid, because you have to see the only way to break through the illusion of this reality is to use the frequencies of a child. I really do mean this. I really do mean that and it's not just me who says it, but the way to do this is through the child. You can make it more complicated if you like, and you will eventually get it. But if you want the best way, the only way to do this easy is by starting to adopt the frequencies of a child, which we have forgotten to do as we get older. And I say that that's easy conceptually to do. But it's not so easy, because we tend to forget, and we tend to get distracted by our life. And so And so the initiation process that I went through was very simple. But the last meeting that I had, the third time that I saw Babaji, I sat in a room and I could feel that there were all of these spiritual entities in the space. And I was asked, what did I get from my 3 days or my 3 visits from him? And now this would go on for a long time after that, because I wasn't, well, I'll just explain it here in a second, that I explained it, that I said this, and I felt really good. I felt really, really, really good about the way I had answered the question. I was like, yeah, I nailed it. And instead I was told that I didn't get it. I was told they said that they basically said, he basically said, you didn't hear a word that I was telling you, did you? And I was like, whoa, what do you mean? I did. I really did. I answered your question. It was so long. It was like the whole thing was a couple hours of me answering questions, and I thought I nailed it, like when you go to university and nail a final oral exam or something. And they say you didn't get it. And so because they said I didn't get it, I had a five-year timeout, meaning that for 5 years I would not be in the presence of their company. And that was extraordinarily hard. That was extraordinarily hard, because I took some very simple concepts and I made them so difficult. And this is a story that repeats itself in all sorts of other stories and other religions and other cultures and stuff. But remembering how to do this is really not that easy to do, because we tend to like to be distracted a lot. And so everything that I was initiated into, or the things that I was initiated into, not just with those 3 days with Babaji, but in many other things that came after that, and even before that, I created this series of teachings so that, and these courses, so that people could remember easily. And the ones that do, they remember, and it changes their life. But a lot of people don't want to do that. They want it like, just give it to me. And I tried that with Babaji, and that's why I got a 5-year timeout. So that's him. That's the
Oh,
answer.
wow. When we talked about this whole world being illusion and the universe being hologram, and this entire thing being a game and like a matrix, somewhere I had got this idea that the people who are working right now as light workers, they themselves are like portals anchoring the
Yes.
light and transmuting darkness. And so, do they act like glitches in the matrix where they kind of tear the matrix to some extent to go to higher vibration?
So I love the way you describe that. I really love the way you describe that, because they are portals. We all carry portals in us, and and this is something that, again, I don't really talk about. I don't know if I've ever talked about it, but our body's just a whole bunch, is made up of a whole bunch of portals. Okay, but all of those portals can be made up into one big portal, and it's a Stargate. And the reason I say that is because if you understand how your body works, and most people wouldn't at this point, but if you understand the sacred geometrical portal that you have in your body, um, you can actually travel, not just astral travel, but and I guess you would call it that, but it is the way in which we astral travel. But you can travel with your consciousness, um, to realms in this dimension, and to the farthest. A Stargate is a portal that allows you to go way, 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 all the way to oneness, if you know how to use that Stargate. And we have that ability. We are able to use the portal within our bodies to do that. And just as a little side teaser, is that the portal that we have is identical to the portal arrangement that you can find in Egypt and with the Great Pyramids. So that's probably for a longer discussion somewhere other than here. I mean, some other time. But when I was in Egypt earlier this year, I realized that the Egyptian pyramids are set up in a certain way to create a portal, and that portal is identical to the portal that we have in our bodies. That all came as a result of being there. I did not have this theory, if you want to call it that, and I went to test it. I went there and I was activated into remembering. There was some really fun, cool stories about that, because it felt like an Indiana Jones movie, and so I know how the Egyptian pyramids can be arranged. They have to be arranged with your mind. You have to consciously rearrange the pyramids in your mind to create a portal to a Stargate. And again, that same portal is identical to the one that we have. That was the first part. What was the second part of your question?
Yeah. So are we like glitches in the matrix?
Oh, the glitches. Yes. I wouldn't necessarily call us glitches. There are glitches in the matrix. You see them like with Mandela effects and stuff like that. We are like, imagine being in a field of just a field. I know you can, of energy, and every so often there are little nodes that stick up out of the field, and we are one of those nodes, and it's a very highly concentrated area of energy of consciousness, very, very concentrated, extraordinarily concentrated. If you compare it to like the still point in science, or the stillness in metaphysics, that point represents an extraordinary level of highly condensed energy of creation, which is what we are. And so we, because of that concentration, we're capable of remembering who we are. That's how consciousness becomes aware of itself. It's the extraordinary high levels of vibration that triggers some sort of an awareness in ourselves, that enables us to then send out, to the extent that it's a glitch. It's not really a glitch, but it sends out pulsations of that ripple through the field, with awarenesses that have profound impact, that can change the landscape of the field if once it becomes more active and once it becomes more aware. And in that case, I suppose in that way it can create glitches in the matrix. So the ones who are waking up, I like this. The ones who are waking up, this is something that's coming through, that in and of itself, the process of remembering is a glitch. Okay. And it's an expected glitch. Yeah. So that, I like the way you did kind of phrase it. It took me a little bit to kind of pull that back into how this all plays out, but the process of remembering is a glitch, and it's a significant one.
Wow. Okay. We've talked a lot about different dimensions and different realms, and you talked about your memories from the angelic realm. So, can you talk about multiple dimensions and the realms?
Yeah, the ones that are, let's just say, of the more impactful ones, they're all very impactful, but the ones that are relevant to this Earth School, are the ones that right now are the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth. When you get into the 10th dimension, you start to get you start to focus on the integration, the higher self integration into itself, that then leads the higher self to move on to the next dimensions or realms of integration with source. So there are multiple levels of consciousness, based on experience. Let's just call it that. Okay. So the ones that I'll just briefly say that we all know the third dimension. Okay. The third dimension is full of schools, full of schools, but there are other schools everywhere else, but full material worlds that manifest themselves into the material realm, the lower level material realms of the dimensions of these the multi-dimensional realms. Okay. So we know that's that we experience, not just, and this doesn't happen in all the other schools, but in this one, you're experiencing contrast and duality and all things that you are not, fear and things of that. All the time, they're all illusory kind of things. So the third dimension is where we get to it's this transition period between becoming aware of ourselves as something and being able to transition ourselves into a space of how do I say this? It's where we get to apply the awareness that we have of ourselves in different ways. Okay. It's one of the main areas of growth in terms of consciousness. The fourth dimension is is awareness. It's the remembering of ourselves, and it's not as it's more like a portal. It's more like a portal of consciousness connecting the third and the fifth, but it's a powerful one because you can't go to the fifth without entering the fourth. People make that mistake in believing that it's just because the fifth dimensional energies are here that they just automatically receive it and all is good. So they have to go to the fourth, and the fourth is all about awareness, the remembrance of yourself as who you really are. Okay, outside of the illusion of these games. The fifth dimension is more of an actual plane of existence, the way that we would know it here. It looks and feels in many ways kind of like here. It doesn't feel. The feeling is much greater. It's lighter. It's very magical. It's very integrative. It's the expansion and contraction of our reality. We're expanding right now, and we're going to be contracting back into oneness in 5D. And that experience of contracting back into oneness is we have no clue. Really, from what I understand, from the way people talk about 5D, it's a really cool experience, but it's not going to be something that it blows your mind. Okay. It's a telepathic experience that integrates you and with empathy into oneness. Again, it's incredible. The sixth dimension is what I refer to as heaven on earth, because it's the stage where we go in between lives to regroup and enjoy what we have created here in this world. Okay, so it's temporary. We believe that heaven or nirvana, whatever other name you give it, is permanent. It's forever. It may feel that way, but it's not. It's just the beginning of the next evolutionary cycle of what you become, and becoming yourself to be. And I'm going to use this earth term or 3D term as God, okay, as the creator, as the divine. So you start to play like a child. You start to go through the seventh dimension is more of a classroom type of an experience of how to see yourself and know yourself to be everything and nothing, and know how to use that energy in order to create worlds. But you don't do any real lab work or anything. It's mostly school. Eighth dimension, you start to apply. You're actually able to do some application of what you are becoming, and you assist in the creation of worlds, but you're not quite yet doing them yourself. You might even get to participate in them a little bit, maybe in some cases a lot. And so a lot of the dimensionals, the ones the ETs and stuff, are in the eighth dimension or the ninth dimension. And they're not ETs. They're not, they don't look the way they look. They just look the way they look here because it's a game. And so you get to wear different costumes. And so they come in all sorts of forms, reptilian and this and that, and beautiful white-haired people and even cat people and all sorts. But it's all costumes that you wear to come here. And in the ninth dimension, you actually get to you really at the highest level of being of creation, And so you do, like in school, you do practicums. You are required to show what you're capable of creating, but you're under the guidance of others, and those others are the angelics, the ones that come from source. The angelics are the ones that are the professors, the architects, the ones that design, and the students are the ones in the ninth dimension putting it into practice and managing it all. And then the 10th and the 12th, 11th and 12th dimensions are the focus goes back to the integration of the higher self as one, but not like completely one, not like we lose our identity one. But as I told you when I had my experience, my near-death experience, that we come back, we fully integrate ourselves into the collective of the higher self, but we never lose our identity, we never lose our stories, we never lose our own energetic frequencies, but we become more focused on that full integration. And then after that, you have a whole series of other dimensions that I'm not as versed in them, because it's not part of my remembering right now, but I know that there are many more after that take you to the level of source, which is a higher level of concentrated consciousness, that people throw around the words higher self and source and oneness, and they don't really necessarily understand that these are not the same. They're the same, they're all same, they all integrate in each other, but they're very higher levels of experiential and mature consciousness, if you want to call it that. And so you have the source, and inside the source there are many, many, many different higher selves. And there's also the world of the angelics. And so beyond that, there's a whole series of other dimensions, and then the final integration into oneness. So, and by the way, everything that I know about the oneness is that it too at one point will divide itself into another self, and so then you will have the two-ness. I don't know, not the oneness, but the two-ness. But that hasn't, as far as I know, that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is new. This is the first time I heard that the source, the oneness itself will, because what we are all of us are actually come from that oneness, and as waves of
Well,
consciousness, individual
not
waves.
not necessarily. There is some of that. Yes, there is some of that. But all of this sits in a field of energy.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine, like you even see in science today, they show this in terms of models of physicality. But imagine that there's this field, and here's oneness. It sits on the field, and the field that is here also supports all the sources, all supports all the higher selves, and everything is moving into the center of oneness. Okay, but the way that oneness began is by the collection of all of these various individual higher selves, and I call them the individual higher selves. Then they became the collective higher selves, and so you have all these higher selves, and then they come together. Some of them come together and integrate into the sources, and there's many sources. There's not like a ton of them. There's, from what I understand, anywhere from 9 to 12 sources, and then those sources then eventually they integrate into the oneness, and they expand the oneness. My point is that the only ones that actually come from the oneness, or I should say really the source, okay, which is before the oneness, are the angelics. They're the only ones that are created from the energy of all. But other than that, everything else has been, and over, let's call it time, comes together to form the expansion of the collective. That's called, that's the contraction of all of the individual parts of itself, and then the expansion of it. But it's not the other. It's not the other way around, which is a huge difference. In that we always believe that we are aspects of the oneness, or the source. The angelics are, but they are a different breed of beings. But otherwise, everything else goes through this evolutionary cycle that takes them through the field and up into the various dimensions, and then ascend into the highest levels of consciousness. That's how it feeds into the field, and all these collective beings continue to expand what we would call the oneness.
So it's been quite intriguing and very insightful conversation so far. I have a few questions that I ask all my guests as
Okay,
a rapid
fire away.
fire. If you were to explain multidimensional soul to a layperson, how will you explain it?
Boy, that's a good question. I would the easiest way, even though it's not the most accurate, it was just to be is in the way that most people if they even understand this, may be able to conceptualize it easier. Is just look at look at each dimension or aspect of your. Imagine that you are well. Imagine your body. Imagine your body, and imagine that every aspect of your body is created out of cells. Okay, and 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 at least this is the way I would describe it in terms of parallel worlds. Okay, but dimensionality could be, I suppose, the same way. Imagine that each cell knows itself to be you, because it is actually every cell knows itself to be you. Okay, and so each cell, unbeknownst to the other cells, understands that it's living in its own world. In your life, you have 50 trillion cells in our bodies. So each one has a different identity to it. Some are blood cells, some are bone cells, some are organs, some are skin cells. But it all knows itself to be part of the one. It all knows itself to be a body. But individually, they're functioning in different worlds, doing their things. And in the same way, we are all like that too. We are all individually we all are individual expressions of this bigger body of energy called consciousness, and we're experiencing our own life as if it's in an individual way, but collectively we're one. And the best way to also describe it is that it's like the mushrooms or the trees. They ask, we're all separate, but what happens to me will affect you, and what happens to you will affect me, because we share the same network of consciousness. That's the best way I could describe it, because most people don't even have a clue as to what, and I mean this respectfully. It takes some time to remember. Most people don't know what it means to be multidimensional in any way. And it is multidimensional in frequencies, but it starts out by just understanding that you're a multi-dimensional being that has, because of the way you have broken yourself out into different aspects of yourself, fractal accents of yourself. That's the best way I can do it. And even then, I probably will lose most people. They'll go, what? But that would be the best way that I can describe it for now.
Okay. What is holistic well-being according to you?
Well, I believe that it has to start with understanding yourself to be everything. I mean, if you want to be holistic, you have to understand that you're everything, that everything around you is an aspect of you. And this is a little bit easier, believe it or not, to explain it. And I use usually the whole description of the genetic coding, our DNA. Okay, because I always tell people, when you're playing the game of Akanksshaa, okay, it's not just your biological body. You're not just your biological body. You are all of everything around you. You go, oh, well, that sounds kind of cool, but how do you know that? And I said, well, because everything has consciousness, and this is your game. This is your game, nobody else's game. And if I can get people to understand that, and I go through a bunch of stuff when I do this and when I'm teaching them, but if you understand that everything is your game, and that you created all of this, then genetically, from a consciousness standpoint, everything that's in your world is made up of your consciousness. Okay, so if you truly desire to understand what the true meaning of holistic is, you have to understand that you are everything. And then if you can see it that way, and it's not that difficult, a child can just imagine that. Okay, then you will understand how all the sum of the parts come together to create the whole, and you can start to treat and respect the whole differently in the way that you treat yourself and the way you treat your environment. So that would be the way I would talk about holistic wellness.
Beautiful. What is the ultimate purpose of life according to you?
to remember who we are. That's the only reason why we're here. That's the only game we're playing. If you might want to pretend and be distracted by all sorts of other things that you feel are important, but the only reason you're here is to remember. If you remember, just like any other thing, if you have amnesia and you remember, it changes everything. It changes the entire landscape of your reality. That is the only purpose we're here to do, is to remember.
Yeah. What is love?
Well, it's an easy answer, but everybody would say this. Love is everything. Love is one of the frequencies that creates the fabric of this whole universe, of this whole dimension, of this whole everything. Love is the profound awareness that you have of, let's call it unity and desire to be with oneself. I mean, it sounds like it would be like, with others, but love is what you carry along with you, that helps you to appreciate and have tremendous gratitude for yourself. Love begins and ends with you. Everything else is, since everything is already you could then emote that to everything else. But love is the awareness. Man, it's a hard abstract question to ask, because here's the one thing I will tell you. Another thing I will tell you about love. Love is not love in this world. Love in the worlds that we come from is not the way love is here. Love is unconditional. Love is expansive. It has no boundaries. It is given to everyone equally. It is given at the highest level to each other. But it begins with ourselves again, knowing how to do that and appreciate that ourselves, which is something we're not taught to do here. Love begins and ends with us, but it is unconditional. So therefore, love does not have restrictions the way that it has in this world. There is no such thing as marriage in where we come from, because we're married to everyone, including ourselves. We are all one in that sense. So we love and respect and treat and feel blissfulness with each other. The same way that we would feel blissfulness with the way that we are required to do with one person here, we do it with everybody. Everybody. It's free access. It's the fabric of the energy in this world, in this universe, in all the dimensions. There is no reason to restrict it to one person. It is unwise, if you will. Okay. So everything that we know about love here is the opposite in the worlds that we come from. Because if nothing else, love is unrestricted and unconditional. And it's also not believe it or not, it is not the strongest energy. The strongest energy is actually joy. Joy is much, much more greater than love. Why do you fall in love? To be happy. Okay. In this world, we are playing in a game that desires to achieve the highest levels of joy, because we already know and understand ourselves to be love. So, and even in this world, we know frequency-wise that we are, that joy, bliss, ecstasy are much greater frequencies. Now, those are combinations of joy and love together. But joy is a much higher frequency than even love.
What is your parting message for our audience today?
It's time. I mean, it's time to, and the way that I would say it is this: all our lives since we were little, somewhere in that time, between the time that we were little and the time that we are now, whatever age we are now, all our lives, and even in the lives of others, okay, the ones who came before us, all of our lives, we have been waiting for something to happen, waiting for something to appear in the sky, or waiting for something to happen on the surface or inwardly or whatever. We've been waiting for something. All we've been waiting for is ourselves. That we don't need anything more now, but other than to remember who we are ourselves. There's a really beautiful expression that Rumi, a philosopher, had many hundreds of years ago or so. I can't recall when it was, but it was actually more like a couple thousand, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Rumi said, that which you are seeking is seeking you.
Yeah. What you seek is seeking you.
Yep. You have been waiting. I mean, the people that are listening to this show, you have been waiting all your life to be validated, to know that you have some other purpose than the purpose that you believe you came here to do. The beliefs that you have been given to you by other people. They're not yours. Deep down inside, you have a different set of awarenesses that are telling you that it's time for you to experience the greatness that you came here to be the light of the world, to be the light of your world. And I don't mean that in any small scale. I mean to be a huge light in the world. All of our lives, we've been waiting for something to show us something about this time that we're in human history. And this human history part is here now. All the points, all the pieces are pointing to this time. The only thing that's missing is you. The only thing that's missing is you, to remember who you are, so that you can contribute in a very huge way to the ascension of this planet and the consciousness of this planet. That's all we've been waiting for, is you. That's it.
Yeah, beautiful. And where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
So I have a couple of ways to connect with me. One is I have a new website, and it's francoromero.com. Very easy. And you can go in there and feel the experience that I've created. It's not just a website. It's got a real feeling of multidimensionalness and metaphysicalness and spiritualness. It's really, I like to believe it's a really cool website. It also talks a lot about the way of the inner child, the way that the teachings that I was given to share with the world. There's options there. People want to take the courses if they like to, or meet with me one-on-one, although I don't do much of that anymore because I'm working on other projects. But there's many ways that people can get the teachings if they want to access them. And then there's also community that I created, which is a community that I feel very proud of, because it's of many people that have had many, many different experiences, NDEs, as spiritually transformative experiences. It's a place where they can feel safe. It's like a sanctuary where they can be allowed to be who they are. And so it's a playful one too. And so that one you can reach me there too. And it's called playground.francoromero.com. And so either one of those two, if you could put those in the comments, that would be cool.
Yeah, we'll give all the links in the description. It has been an honor having you here. Thank you so much for giving us your time and wisdom.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching and listening in wherever you are in the world. As Ramdas says, that we all are just walking each other home. So thank you for co-creating the new earth along with me and our guests. And if you resonate with me, do subscribe to my channel and do let us know how you find our episodes. Thank you so much. Lots of love.